Penguin Random House Audio presents In Awe. Rediscover your childlike wonder to unleash inspiration, meaning, and joy by John O'Leary with Cynthia DiTiberio. This is the author, John O'Leary. To the little ones who ensured my life would never be the same. Jack, Patrick, Henry, and Grace. Because of you, I am more daring, more loving, and more alive. Let this book remind you always of all you taught me and how much I love you. And, my children, as the years pass and you forget to live these lessons yourself, let this book remind you to reclaim what remains possible within you. On the night you were born, the moon smiled with such wonder that the stars peeked in to see you, and the night wind whispered, "Life will never be the same." Nancy Tillman, On the Night You Were Born. Introduction. Raise your hand. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The auditorium was buzzing. As a speaker, I've had the pleasure of presenting to organizations around the world, from Southwest Airlines to Microsoft, from 20,000 salespeople at a national sales conference to a dozen CEOs in a boardroom. On this day, I look forward to talking with one of my favorite audiences, school-aged kids. I love their voices, their laughter, their zest. I always leave the room energized and reminded of how lit up for life our little ones can be. School districts typically invite me to speak to their entire school, but divide students into several groups based on age. First, I get the pleasure of speaking to the youngest cohort, grades 1 through 3. And let me tell you, it's obvious as soon as they enter the auditorium, the party's on. Laughter bounces off the walls, smiles beam from faces, energy is high, and voices are loud. When I ask questions during my presentation, they answer heartily. When it is their turn for questions, they wave their hands in the air in the hope of being called on. When it is time to return to class, they leap to their feet, a line forms by the door, and they fist bump me excitedly as they prance on to the next part of their day. One of the boys in this group pulled back in shock after giving me a fist bump. He looked at my right hand, then my left. He stared into my eyes, held my gaze, and asked as if stunned, "What happened to your hands, mister?" Okay, I just shared the story of what happened to my hands. I had literally just stood in front of this boy and his classmates and explained. I made a huge mistake, blowing up my house when I was 9, set myself on fire, damaged my body, lost my fingers to amputation, but my life was still filled with possibility, and so was theirs. I was expected to die, but I beat the odds. Impossible, miraculous things still happen every day. Had he missed the presentation? Been stuck in the bathroom? Was the microphone not on? Whatever the cause, I took a slice of humble pie, bent down to his level, and responded, "Well, when I was 9 years old, I was in a house fire. I lost my fingers, but I'm doing awesome today." I could see him thinking about it for a moment, trying to make sense of this before replying, "Oh my gosh," he continued enthusiastically. "We had a speaker earlier today, and when he was 9 years old, he was burned in a fire too." After a short pause, he added, "You two should meet." The little boy then extended his hand, gave me a fist bump, and skipped down the hallway. I shook my head and laughed. Kids may sometimes get the answers wrong, but they are unafraid to ask questions, even the hard ones. I was still smiling to myself when the next group showed up. Grades 4 through 6 are more subdued. There's a little less noise when they enter, fewer hands elevated when it's time for questions, not as much excitement as they filter out of the auditorium. Then, grades 7 and 8 enter, eventually the high school students. And with each subsequent group, well, you can guess what happens, right? Heads are down, phones are in hand. During the presentation, fewer answers are offered, hardly any questions asked. They're great kids and are internalizing the message, but it seems they've outgrown the joy of fully participating. It's easy to blame it on adolescence. Sure, you could fault their hormones, their surly attitudes, their desires to fit in, or their craving to be cool. And yet, is the way they participate so different from the manner in which we show up as adults? Think about it. When was the last time you waltzed into a room buzzing with energy? When was the last time you showed up to a presentation convinced it was going to be awesome? When was the last time you responded to a question by waving your hand in the air, begging to be called on, shouting out the answer? We've transformed from excited, engaged, wildly optimistic kids who sprint to school into disengaged, distracted, cynical adults with most of the enthusiasm snuffed out. Maybe we claim it's because we now possess the wisdom of experience. We've been around the block and know that life isn't always easy. In fact, it's often downright hard. We're sprinting on the treadmill of doing more and more with fewer resources and less time. We're exhausted, don't feel we are getting anywhere, and tired of all the effort. The constant negativity broadcast through the news outlets and social media has convinced us the best days are behind us, and the end is near. Don't believe me? Watch your evening news tonight for validation. You're doomed. Doomed. Although we're more connected digitally and living in closer proximity to one another than at any point in the history of the world, we've never felt more isolated and alone. It's negatively affecting every generation, but showing up most dramatically in young adults, with 30% of millennials reporting they feel lonely and 22% admitting they have no friends. I don't know about you, but I think it's time we address how we are approaching life so we can get back to living lit up, excited and inspired for what's ahead. And I think our kids have the answers. This book is an invitation to reawaken 5 essential senses that you possessed as a child that will allow you to get back in touch with what it is like to live with the whimsical freedom and intrinsic joy of children waltzing through life. It was a time when you were insanely curious, and your inquisitive nature refused to believe anything was impossible. When you stepped into every experience with eyes wide open, heart brimming with hope, expecting amazing things. When you were totally immersed in the moment instead of worried about the past or anxious about the future. When you weren't concerned about how you appeared to others and approached everyone, even total strangers, as potential friends. When you stepped in boldly, raised your hand high, and felt the invigorating sense of freedom that allows you to go all in, dare greatly, and inhabit your life fully. I call this living in awe. This is our true nature. Unfortunately, as we age, this natural state erodes as the world tells us who to be. We've been trained to let go of our childish ways. Be quiet. Sit still. Don't talk to strangers. Color within the lines. Be careful. It's just the way things are. Don't rock the boat. I certainly remember those refrains being yelled at me time and time again by my parents, coaches, and teachers. And while they were well-intentioned, in the process, our natural buoyancy gets slowly squashed. Our inherent creativity gets coached away. Our playfulness and our energy get disciplined right out of us. Their exhortations diminish the senses required to effectively navigate the world in which we live. This affects the way we see our world and how we show up in it. Our senses are designed to help us process and understand the world. They inform what we see, Here.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?